Stephanie Crable, and I'm the Executive Director of Into Account, the survivor advocacy organization that has been standing with Kimberly for the past 2 years. I'd like to open with a quote from Mr. Peters. We have a woman staying at a guest house. She's very distraught, and we believe is borderline personality disorder, and is doing lots of manipulating and lying, and is very cunning and very smart. This is what Mike Peters, LSCSW, called 911 to report, saying he wanted a police presence to protect him from Kimberly Hunter, a woman with whom he attended church. A woman staying at a guest house, he called her, the woman who weekly sat in the same pews as him. We believe she is borderline personality disorder, said the licensed mental health professional, continuing, she is doing lots of manipulating and lying and is very cunning and very smart. She is borderline. She is very cunning. This is the report provided of a person's mental health to law enforcement by a licensed mental health professional who, according to the documentation we have provided to the Behavioral Sciences Regulatory Board, was selected for a committee investigating Kimberly Hunter's report of intimate partner violence in his role as, again, a licensed mental health professional to center Kimberly and her mental health in the investigation. At Into Account, because we provide services to survivors, we have seen a lot of stigmatizing and smearing and doubt casting aimed at survivors. It's not even the first time seeing a survivor's credibility attacked by labeling them borderline personality disorder. It seems to be a catch-all label to imply a survivor is lying, unstable, and an annoying person. Generally, it is said with a sneer and an implication of hysteria about women. But never have we seen a licensed mental health professional so viciously direct church leadership and an entire church community in an obsessive ostracization and shunning of someone based on the stigmatized mythology surrounding borderline personality disorder, a diagnosis this survivor does not even have. Rarely have we seen communities become so obsessed with monitoring the survivor's mental health that they call her friends, roommates, and coworkers to report back to them on her every move. Never have we seen anyone, let alone a licensed mental health professional, call 911 to leverage the stigmatized mythology around borderline personality disorder to draw police to a traumatized survivor's door, not for a wellness check, but because her supposed borderline personality disorder made her dangerous to him. And in his own words, we want police for our protection. During that late night police visit, LSCSW Mike Peters used that same borderline personality disorder mythology to evict Kimberly Hunter from her church-owned housing, something he was able to do because he held an ethics-defying double role. In addition to being a mental health professional specifically dedicated to Kimberly's mental health after experiencing trauma, Mike Peters, LSCSW, was her landlord. The facts of this case are astounding. The strength and grace of survivor Kimberly Hunter is astonishing. She has stood steadfast, asking for kinder processes, apologies, and reasonable conversations about what went so wrong. She addressed her experiences and concerns inside that church community until it became clear that they were committed to playing out their mythical borderline villain version of her until the bitter end. And now, she does not call for Mike Peters' head or to take him to court for civil compensation, either of which would be understandable and very much her right. Instead, she asks that the regulatory board of his profession hold him accountable for his multiple ethical violations and that they consider addressing the future misuse of mental health licenses and credentials in church and religious contexts. We are proud to stand with Kimberly with the full force of our credentials and organization as she seeks these simple outcomes after years of cruelty. I'm going to now let her speak for herself.
Some people, when they hear your story, contract. Others, upon hearing your story, expand. And this is how you know. That poem by Nayyirah Waheed has been a guiding light for me over the past 2 years. The people here with me today are the ones who expanded rather than contracted. Some people here today, like my friend Terry Rouse, have been walking this journey with me since before Mike Peters made that 911 call back in 2019. Others here today are showing up for the first time because they heard part of my story and they know about institutional abuse. They know what happens when an official authority figure representing a beloved institution wields the public trust like a weapon of power over vulnerable individuals. Such power is what Mike Peters wielded over me, as he was representing both the institution of Rainbow Mennonite Church in his role as deacon, and the Kansas Behavioral Sciences Regulatory Board in his role as a trauma-informed social worker. The actions Mike Peters took against me exploded my life as I knew it. In one night, I lost my home, my church, and soon thereafter, my job. All this less than 3 months after I requested my abusive former boyfriend, who had keys and authority to access my residence, be required to give notice before entering my home for repairs. A simple request. It began at 6:17 a.m. on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019, when Mike Peters emailed me requesting a meeting as soon as possible. He did not state the reason, nor did he call me, as my auto reply instructs people to do if matters are urgent. So I went to work like normal. And after work, I went to my weekly therapy appointment with Amber Thomas at the Family Conservancy of Wyandotte County. And when I walked into my therapist's office that day, my life began exploding. First, she asked me if I was okay. I said yes. Then she said she had received multiple voicemails from a deacon at my church stating they thought I had borderline personality disorder and were concerned because I had been making threats. We sat on the floor of her office for the rest of the session, trying to sort out the pieces, but they made no sense. First of all, I had not been making threats. As a Mennonite, I have a deep commitment to nonviolence. Second, earlier that summer, my therapist had written my church deacons a letter stating she had diagnosed me with adjustment disorder with mixed anxiety and depression while I was recovering from an abusive intimate partner relationship, not borderline personality disorder. After leaving therapy that day, I sat in the parking lot for an hour, texting and calling friends to share that things were getting weird and to seek advice. One friend said not to worry about it, to go home and revisit the matter in 24 hours if it still felt important then. Another friend urged me not to go home at all. I decided to set up an emergency text group so I could easily request company if things got worse and I didn't want to be alone. Then I got groceries and went home. Things got worse. Less than 5 minutes after I walked in my front door, I heard a knock, and the police were outside. It felt as though someone had been stalking me, watching my house, just waiting for me to come home so they could make their move. What you are about to hear is the moment that shattered my sense of reality and nearly shattered my faith. This is the 911 call Mike Peters, licensed specialist clinical social worker, made to the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department moments after I returned home after dark, the night of Tuesday, September 19th.
Yes, hi. This is Mike Peters calling, and I am a deacon at Rainbow Mennonite Church, and we have a guest house there, and we have a woman staying at the guest house who has made threats to burn down our church, and possibly other threats against other people. I'm headed out there right now. We're actually in the process of evicting her from the house, and I'm headed over there right now with our minister. And the address is 2303 South Early Street in Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay, what's her name?
Kimberly Hunter, Hunter.
Okay.
And Jatame Taylor, J-E space T-A-I-M-E Taylor, also lives there. Jatame is the person who gave me that information. And I don't believe there's any firearms. She has not been aggressive to other people. She's very distraught because of a breakup with a boyfriend and has a long history of mental health problems and has what we believe is borderline personality disorder and is doing lots of manipulating and lying and is very cunning and very smart. And we just can't take this threat lightly. Our church is right down the block. And so the minister, her husband.
What's the name of the
Go ahead.
church?
Rainbow Mennonite Church.
Okay.
It's right on that same corner of Early Street and Southwest Boulevard.
Okay, how long will it take you to get there?
I'm going to go by our minister's house, and it'll probably take us about 10 minutes to get there.
And what color, make, and model vehicle are you in?
I'm in a silver Prius.
Okay.
It's a 2010. The house is right on the corner. And like I said, I just spoke with this Jatame Taylor, and she gave me all this information. So.
Okay. So are you we're heading over there to talk to her right now, or along
Yeah,
with
we're
police?
headed over.
Okay.
Yeah, well, hopefully. We're headed over there. We want police for our protection and for Jatame's protection. I told Jatame to get out of there. She has this conflicted relationship with Kimberly where she tries to talk her off the ledge all the time.
Okay.
And so she doesn't feel threat. But when she said that Kimberly keeps talking about everything from picketing the church to suing the church to burning it down, that's when I said, okay, enough's enough. We're in the process of having her evicted, like I said, anyway, and we're trying to get all the ducks in a row for that. So we're gonna have a letter saying that she needs to be out of the house, and that we were also talking with her father. She's a 32-year-old white female. Jatame is approximately the same age African-American female.
Okay. All right, Mike, we'll get officers out there as soon as possible.
Hey, really appreciate your help.
You're welcome, sir. All right,
Thank you.
Unharm someone by telling the truth you could not face when you struck instead of tended. Put the fire out. Unburn. When I posted that Nayera Wahid poem on my Facebook months after Peter called police to my door, church leaders claimed even that, a poem entitled Unburn, was an arson threat. The actions Mike Peters took against me shattered my sense of reality through what became the most disorienting and destructive experience of my life. The police, who did not seem to believe I was a threat, left without speaking to me that night. The only note about me in their report says, Ms. Hunter felt afraid. Nevertheless, at 1:25 a.m. that same night, Mike Peters emailed me an eviction and excommunication notice from his professional email account for a business that touts his psychotherapy experience. He gave me until Friday, less than 3 days, to vacate the church-owned residence where I had lived, worked, and paid rent for nearly 3 years. His eviction was an illegal one, but I was too terrified, exhausted, and disoriented to fight it. So I fled as fast as I could. Peter's eviction and excommunication email stated he had done his best to provide Christian love, implying I was so beyond God's love that I deserved his punishment. Peters made me doubt my own sanity and self-worth. Because of Mike Peters, today I am intimately acquainted with trauma, gaslighting, institutional betrayal, and DARVO, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. All terms which I was blissfully unaware of a few years ago. For years now, I have asked Mike Peters to explain his actions to me, to put the fire out. The source Mike Peters cited for his information about my being a threat wrote a statement saying Peters had misrepresented her words. She said the same thing to police the night of the 911 call. And over a year ago, my therapist wrote a letter stating she had not found clinical validation to support diagnosing me with borderline personality disorder, nor observed any behaviors or heard any thought content indicating that I would be of harm to myself or others. But Mike Peters treated those women the same way he had treated me, as if they did not matter. But the people here today, whether they are showing up with me for the first or the 100th time, know that I matter, that every person matters. They also know, as my friend Khadijah Hardaway often says, everyone has power and authority are best used when they are shared. And so we are here, standing together in our power and authority outside the Kansas Behavioral Sciences Regulatory Board office to ask, please help us put the fire out. Restore our sense of trust. If there are no penalties for actions like those Mike Peters took against me, then men like Mike Peters threaten the reputation and public trust of the entire social work profession. If the board holds Mike Peters accountable, this would help restore my sense of reality. It would be a form of narrative restitution, where the truth is finally taken into account after years of silence, false narratives, and rumors that still whisper around town. Be careful. She's crazy, dangerous. She lost her mind once. Don't get too close. Some people urge me to let go, to move on. It's been over 2 years, and I practice letting go every day. I am moving on, moving forward, toward truth and justice. Healing is not linear, and justice takes time. In closing, for any survivor or ally listening, I share with you this poem by my friend Alex Martinez, which they recently published in their new book, Concealment. Alex writes, there are so many of us that continue to hold on and carry what was done to us. There are so many of us who are silenced by society and the roles we get to play. There are so many of us who suffer in silence while functioning perfectly. To you, my dear love, I write this. You are not broken. You are not empty. You are not guilty. You are not wrong. You are a gift to all of us. When you heal, we all do. Take your time. Thank you for your time.
I just have a few final remarks. I've been in the profession of victim advocacy since 2016. I consider myself an ally of the mental health professions. Most of my clients, concurrent to working with my colleagues and me, are also seeing mental health professionals. While I've seen abuses of power and mental health stigmatization in my own largely unregulated profession, until Mr. Peters, I had never encountered a mental health professional hiding behind his own credentials in order to stalk, emotionally abuse, and publicly humiliate a survivor in this fashion. As a victim advocate, in order to do my job effectively, I need mental health professionals to do their jobs as well, and to hold one another to the highest ethical standards. We hope that will happen in this case. Thank you.